Alrighty. Okay, so after the last video, I was thinking about the POC and the direction it was going and where I was stalled out, and then more than anything else, everything that, I've learned from looking at the BTOX project, which is essentially the full project that this POC is for, or at least, that's what it is, what it will be. Um, uh, So, a lot of these questions about the binaries and what we're building, I feel like, whether or not it's possible has been kind of answered either through BTOX or through, the Dart application stuff through my own interaction. And then as far as like learning about this kind of stuff, I feel like there is a lot of information that I've learned just trying to understand everything we've done so far in the repo. And I was kind of feeling like, yeah, it might be time to call it on this POC. If we're not doing the whole project now, what more is there really to learn um, beyond what we've already learned? Um, and in light of that, I decided to start writing this summary to kind of a little retrospective, little postmortem, figure out the takeaways, and then when I got to the end of it, it yeah, it made me start to think that maybe there was a little bit more to this POC, and maybe I haven't really tied up all the loose ends just quite yet, or maybe there's more to do. Let me walk through this summary. I'm still going to go through it. This was going to be like a short conclusion video to just go over this, but I feel differently now. Okay, so first thing, Flutter and Dart. This is the first time I've ever used this framework. First time doing anything, remotely full stack or front end related for a while. My job is all on the back end, and all of my projects are really in the back end. That's my bread and butter. But testing out this framework here, loved it. I feel like there was good documentation. I mean, half of these videos are just me going through a document and slowly following what it's saying. I feel like the specific package I was working with, FFI, was there were a lot of different examples and clear things, and I ran into issues, but that was mainly due to integration of two sophisticated frameworks working together, right? So I think in general, Flutter and Dart very full featured. The little doctor business compared to other frameworks I've used, I felt like there was a quick learning curve, at least to get started. I don't know how difficult that is, but I felt like that was very fun. The application design, strictly enforced via the compiler to prevent runtime errors. That was interesting. The sound null safety business, some of the other issues that even my linter was showing, immediately, um, that I would consider stylistic or design choices in most languages that are kind of codified here and enforced quite strictly. I think this impacted the learning curve. Maybe that's just because I come from languages where there's a little bit more flexibility in how you code your applications. So I definitely had to look up a lot of those error codes, but I do think that the application itself was, that there was some safety to it, there was some real logic to it, and in the types of applications you can build with Flutter that have these end customers, that this reduces a lot of the directions that application usage could go, right, and kind of limits the kind of combinations you can expect from your application. So that was I see the idea behind it, and I understand that especially because this is a multi-platform application where there's like a different build for each environment that you're running on or each platform that you're running on. Debugging actual runtime issues on a particular environment is so difficult, and so this helps with that so much by removing, catching as many things and enforcing as many things as possible in the language itself without, actually limiting what you can do. Um, uh, is probably more helpful than I could possibly realize without developing a full application in Flutter. But I'm sure that uh, I can tell already that I'm sure a lot of developers out there, um, uh, well, maybe not all of them. I don't know what the developer consensus is on Flutter, or the corporation how I don't know what the adoption's like. I really don't know about the success, but I'll say I'm sure that there's a lot of developers out there who appreciate this because debugging on certain platforms is probably quite tricky, especially because it's probably rare that one person is super familiar with a lot of platforms and how to debug in all those different platforms. So, anyways, this seems like it's very valuable, and it makes sense for a framework that's trying to be as multi-platform as this. Okay, the multi-platform business itself was the main selling point for me. Very impressive. Um, Abstracted away a ton of pipelines. I have no idea how to make like an iOS app, right? And it was cool to see that I was, half the way there with this Flutter application. That was cool. May lead to faster development. My guess is that the second you deviate too much from common application development, understanding the underlying infrastructure will almost certainly become crucial. And this is with all abstraction, right? The easier you make something, the easier it is to start up. And there's all these different, things happening behind the scenes. The second you deviate too much or get too far out of bounds, even with my FFI business, right? When I needed to figure out where to put those, where to put the binaries, where those go. Okay, well then we start to differ a little bit depending on which platform it is, and you got to kind of understand how that platform is built from Flutter. So there is a little bit of that there, which is expected. So I'm sure having a background in application development on each of the individual platforms separate from Flutter probably does really come in handy when you get into the nuts and bolts. Okay, finally, FFI. This was the feature that I was the most excited about. Very stable, very good. I didn't see any issues with this particularly. In fact, I was impressed that the actual talks method calls that I was doing from Dart worked so quickly. I'm kind of surprised that the compilation is what ended up stalling me way more than the actual calls to the binaries from Dart. So that was cool. That was good. Okay, talks takeaways. So I have never actually tried to build any sort of project with talks. I learned about it years ago. Studied it, thought about doing something with it, but it isn't until now. Obviously, this is just a POC, right? So one thing I will say is before this POC, I looked heavily into Talks and Jammy, which I thought were kind of I know there's a lot of different applications and frameworks out there in this space of peer-to-peer communication. A lot of applications out there. Talks and Jammy were the two that I thought were quite full-featured, quite impressive. They ticked a lot of the other boxes like open source, making them very good for projects. Completely decentralized with the distributed hash table for connecting and managing addresses. And then all the platform support that was already there. And then all the features that they support, right? Not just talking and stuff. Now, that said, I looked into Talks and Jammy, and my impression of Jammy was, it's kind of being run by, I don't know if it's an organization or a company, but there's like a specific, I think it's a company that's like, really driving that application development. They own all the repos, and they have a separate application for like every single platform. It really is impressive. They have all these different kind of connected repos and features and applications that was all kind of built out and all kind of owned by that singular organization. Again, I think it's a company. I don't fully remember from my research, but and then I kind of thought Talks was really just the core. That the TalkTalk Foundation kind of managed just the core, and then clients were completely built by other people. Like there was really a community of decentralized support. The developers themselves were kind of decentralized from any organization, and now, and I'm sure that's probably true to Jammy for a certain extent too. There's probably other people who have helped, but that was my impression from the like preliminary research I did at the beginning. I was impressed that the TalkTalk Foundation is kind of similar to Jammy, where there's this organization has dozens of repos building all sorts of things that are, related to beyond the Talks core, and a lot of them look like they started off independently, but then were added to the foundation going on to kind of build this cohesive kind of environment where they have all these different little, bindings for all these different languages, ToxCore itself written in all these different languages, clients for different platforms and different applications, written in different languages. That was pretty cool to see. So I think I was just wrong about that, right? It looks like both Tox and Jammy have a decent bit of, it's more than just the protocol, it's more than just the framework. They have, full applications and uh, different frameworks, and even BTOX. I mean, I didn't even realize BTOX existed. It wasn't on any of the Wikipedias I looked at, and maybe that's because it's not completed yet. But I looked through a bunch of these different clients, didn't even realize that there already was, this project in motion of a Flutter multi-platform application for as a Tox client. So super cool, super cool. Including the CI tools. I haven't mentioned that too, right? Also integrated into the ecosystem. They have their own CI tools. Obviously, they must have servers somewhere that's running that, resources, donated or belonging to the TalkTalk Foundation in some way. That said, most development does not seem very active. I don't think I saw any commits within like the last few months across any of the repos I looked at. Now, that could be because they're all working on the other repos. Like I said, there were dozens and dozens of repos. I obviously only looked at 3 or 4 throughout the course of this POC. Could be that some of those other repos, that's where the active development is. They're really focusing on something else right now, or the community is really focusing on something else. But at least in the repos I looked at, it didn't seem super active. And I don't know what the kind of activity looks like on these applications in the first place. I really have nothing to base this off of. This could just be because I'm, not super familiar with these types of open source communities. Okay. Those were my takeaways from Tox and from Flutter, which were the 2 main frameworks that I was kind of getting, very new to me. And then what did I learn? Okay, so BTOX, Flutter-based Tox client for all applications. POC already exists as an application in early development. It was very interesting to see how this team of engineers resolved problems I identified in my POC. My favorite part of this whole thing was, I felt like I was finding problem after problem that I was, not quite sure exactly the right way to resolve it or how I would resolve it or if it made sense to go down that path. And then to discover that application and see that, okay, some of the decisions, they did the same thing I did, right? Like they must have gone down the same documentation and found a way to make it work. And some of them, they made completely different decisions. But they identified the same problems and then clearly had to build something to resolve it, which was interesting. Like I love that part. That was very cool. BTOX itself, I thought was very impressive. Critical issue as I see it is how to generate the Tox binaries for all the platforms. That was the kind of critical issue that I ran into. Flutter allows developers to define tool chains for each platform and compile during the Flutter build process. So this is kind of the first option, is that Flutter has, some integration so that when you build your Flutter app, it can, execute different tool chains that you've defined in YAML, and for each platform, and take the same, you can store the actual source code, the native code, the C code, and Flutter itself can implement a tool chain on a particular platform to build the application. Very cool. The idea of that is very cool. But Tox is like, it's complicated. It's a complicated framework. The peer-to-peer messaging, the distributed hash table, the dependencies on libsodium and ToxAV and Opus and all that. This is not like a straightforward C compilation, and not all of those platforms are going to be able to just use CMake, as far as I understand it, right? So, I think defining these tool chains, right? Defining the tool chains themselves for each independent platform that you want to support for a compilation, this sophisticated, that is not straightforward. That's a difficult con. To me, that seemed like beyond the scope of this POC at a certain point, that I was going to figure out how to. I was just having to do it once, and it was taking time. And I'm sure once I did it once everywhere, I could have automated that process and found a way to codify that into, one of the like a tool chain. But that is, and then what happens when you update talks? I mean, what if you have to change that tool chain? I mean, it's kind of a rabbit hole, right? So it's very cool that the ability is there, and I do think you could do it. I do think it's possible. I didn't come across anything that made me think that that was not possible. Um, but it requires some understanding, and I think to a certain degree it requires more understanding than I have about the C compilation process on different platforms, right? I mean, compiling on Linux was straightforward because I knew I could just get GCC, make sure I have the dependencies, and download it. But the second I started trying to do it on Android with the NDK, and then looking at the procedure for if I wanted to do it on Windows or on Mac and iOS, those would have been just like the Android one. I mean, they would have been little POCs in and of themselves, me figuring out how to compile this repo on this platform, and then automating that to some degree. And even then, um, you'd have to build it on each platform, right? I mean, unless you can come up with a cross compilation tool chain, like like on Linux compiling for all these different platforms, and I don't know if that can be codified in the YAML, right? I mean, if we're really talking about how complicated these tool chains would get if you had to cross compile, I mean, I think the design is still that you would build your application on each platform or the three main desktop operating platforms independently, right? And that's a big con. Okay, a lot of talking about that. That's a tough way to solve the problem. This is obviously the way that I kept seeing all the documentation for when I was looking up for Flutter. So I went down that path, I think, a little more than I maybe should have. Okay, the second option is instead of finding a way to compile all of your code using Flutter and defining it all in the application, TalkTalk has these nightly build running. I shouldn't say nightly. I think it's like release based, maybe monthly release based, something like that. Build. They have these regular running builds for most platforms that generate publicly available binaries. Now this is what BTalks did. Genius, right? So obviously these binaries are going to be useful to so many different Talks clients and so many different applications. So they just run their own, I mean, they have their own defined pipelines, right? Probably Docker-based defined pipelines in their CI tools repo. I say probably, but that's what we saw, right? They have a CI tools repo with Docker files that build the environment and then compile out exactly their, I guess they can't use a Docker file for everything. I mean, that probably wouldn't work for macOS. I didn't look into that pipeline. But in any case, right, they have these pipelines that are defined and publicly available, and then they have the binaries themselves just available, publicly released, and BTalks just grabs the latest version of that every time, right? Which is so much more straightforward, very easy, and they're already available, recent, and maintained, right? I said, what happens if they change the C code and you have to change your toolchain? You're not responsible for that, right? Someone else is already taking care of that, and you would just be repeating their effort. Repeating their effort. I say you're not responsible for that, but it's an open source community, so I don't know. Maybe you are the person in the community who's responsible for that. But theoretically, there are other people who have a vested interest in the same thing you do, and they've already solved this problem. You don't need to recreate the wheel here. Okay, cons, not available for Windows yet. Right, they didn't have Windows DLLs yet. And then these are dependent on the external nightly builds. Again, I put nightly. Let me put monthly release-based builds. So this means, right, if one of those broke, right, or if there was something, and you were like me, Joe Schmo, and you didn't really have that kind of, you don't really fully understand the pipelines or how they're generating these binaries. You're just consuming them from the outside. If one of them were to break or be missing some sort of functionality, I would not have the control to fix that. So that is a con here, right? Every time you have any sort of dependency, this is what comes with it, right? You're dependent on somebody else. And notably, that's something that would not be the case if we did it Flutter way, right? I would have full control over the app. It would all be, all the source code would be in my repo, and I would be building the whole thing. So you're seeding some of that. But I think, in this case, it's relatively clear that this is probably the way to go. I mean, it's worth it. It's clear, and this is probably in line with the community, right? And building with the community as opposed to separately. Okay. Okay. Last takeaway that I learned that was pushed out everywhere was uh, I was essentially doing two separate projects here, right? There was this flow of trying to create all the binaries and then a separate flow of trying to build a Dart application using the bindings, right? So those are two completely separate projects. And I mean, I was really just alternating back and forth between them. I wasn't really, getting anything from that. Or there really wasn't any overlap, right? And uh, everywhere I went, right, I saw the FFI is typically done as a plugin, right? So there's this, natural abstraction of defining, putting all your native code and the bindings into a plugin and then just consuming it from a purely Dart application. So literally separating the Dart and the native code into two projects and then having a front-end Dart application and a plugin with Tox functionality, kind of essentially just Flutter bindings, right? Flutter bindings would be good. Okay, this is what I just talked about. Abstracting out the Tox functionality into a separate FFI plugin using either of the two options above offers the most options to future developers. So you can imagine another future developer, in my same shoes, the same way that in the TalkTalk Foundation there are bindings for Kotlin and for Rust and Haskell, and there's all the, well, maybe not, or there was Rust, but there were all these bindings to different languages from the Talks, the core repo. This would be that same thing, right? You would have Flutter bindings, right? Essentially wrapped inside a plugin that you could just import into your Flutter app. Or I should say Dart bindings, sorry. Dart bindings wrapped in a Flutter plugin that you could just import into your app and then interact with the Tox functionality that way. That seems to be the design of the rest of the TalkTalk Foundation. I don't think that's necessarily the goal of BTalks. I mean, BTalks looks like it's its own full client. It's its own full application. They solved this problem, but that layer of abstraction isn't there. Okay, where do I go from here? All right, so this brings us back to the beginning of this video. What could I do from here if I wanted to continue, right? If I consider this POC a success and I want to spend more time here, I could contribute to BTalks since they are already much further along in development. This is probably the way to go, right? To fully understand their repo, to get a decent get a decent understanding of how their application is supposed to work. I certainly don't know enough Flutter or enough about Tox yet to contribute to their project. They're so much further along than I am. But it is super interesting and definitely something that I could try and do it from the future, starting with smaller pieces of it, developing myself, building functionality on it. I could, clone it, look at it. Try to be useful. And then the other one over here is create that FFI plugin for future Flutter applications, right? So this would essentially just be the bindings part, the native code and bindings part of BTalks wrapped up into an FFI plugin, so that the future developers who are in my shoes who want to build a new Tox client using Flutter, if they had a new idea for how their client could look, they could, they wouldn't have to go through this process. What I ended up spending the most time doing is POC, the problem that BTalks has already solved. They could just pull that plugin and immediately start their development, right? So I think that is also very valuable. I think that would be an interesting contribution. And to be clear, after everything that I've learned, after everything that I've seen, I don't know that this is actually, this is where I was going to end, right? I was going to say, boom, short video, wrapped it up. Those are all my thoughts. We end it right here. But, this is where I think, how long could this really take? And I mean, I start to think about how successful this POC was. I didn't get, significantly far through both of my lists. Um, I got pretty far through this one. But you see what I mean? I mean, success. Uh, obviously we redefined success quite a few times in this POC. But there's something to be said here, right? This FFI plugin would be interesting, right? This would be a fun contribution. I think this would be valuable to people, or at least valuable to myself. If in the future I decided I wanted to try this again and not take the route of Beat Talks, I I I don't know what Beat Talks looks like because I've never actually like downloaded and compiled it. But if I wanted to contribute there or do somewhere else, I think it would still be valuable for me to know this. All right. So with that being said, you should try and create this plugin. Okay, so let me close this. Let me save my changes. All right. So here was my application. Whew. I don't think we need to really worry about this one that much. Let me pull this over. Okay. In fact, I think, we can kind of ditch. I'm not going to delete them all here, but like, I think in my head, this FFI plugin is a mixture of two things, right? Like I said, we already have an implementation that was written in BTalks, which is, and let me just make sure that is, I'm pretty sure all of this is GPL3 copyleft, right? I think that's what ToxCore is, so I assume that is what BTalks is too. Let me just see if I can get that confirmed. Official Tox mobile Tox client. Yeah, the GPL3 license. Here we go. Let me make sure this is, I'm pretty sure this one's you receive source code, can get it if you want, that you can change the software or use pieces of it in a new free programs, and that you can do these things. For denying these rights, therefore, for the word copyleft. Maybe that's, oh, beautiful. Free copyleft. Okay. Okay, yeah. So I should be able to take pieces from this, put it into a new FFI plugin, as long as that plugin is also open source and GPL 3.0 license, which, that was already the goal, right? We're already building a C ToxCore application. I don't think that changes anything. Because I think ToxCore is already GPL 3. Okay. So it's a mixture of this and then that FFI plugin template. FFI plugin. Ooh. Okay, to create a plugin. There we go. Look at this. Flutter create plugin, all the platforms, FFI Gen app. Okay, and this generates, do you remember earlier in this POC, I was trying to figure out what was in, where is it? I was trying to figure out what was inside these darts files, but I couldn't find it. I guess we are going to find out now when I do this. Okay, so I think we should pull both of these. We should generate the plugin template and we should pull BTalks and look at them both side by side and figure out, because I guess what I'm wondering here, I'm not sure what's easier. Would it be easier to branch off BTalks and then delete everything that's unrelated to the plugin and then add whatever it takes to make a Flutter project into a Flutter plugin? I don't know what all is involved in that process. Or would it be easier to create a template to just create this plugin template and then copy over the things from BTalks that are relevant to the plugin? Let's pull them both and then figure it out. I think that's the way to do it. Let me grab that folder. Let's just open a quick terminal and okay. So I think I can call Flutter create this. Let's call it talks Flutter talks Android, iOS, Linux, Mac OS, Windows. That's good. I don't know what would be a good name for this plugin. Like if people were getting it. Let's call it Talks Bindings. I think that's what it is. Boom. Okay. And now let's clone btalks. Beautiful. All right. Now we can open up both of these and see, what we're really working with here. That was interesting. I don't think I've ever opened code with a GUI. Okay. Let's do that all again for talks bindings. Might be good to just open up this, but whatever. We're in it. Okay. All right, so now we have btalks and we have talks bindings. Okay, so a moment of truth. What is inside this lib? Okay. So these are the bindings. Wait, these are the generated bindings? Talks bindings. All right. We've officially lost the plot. The symbols are looked up in the dynamic library. Lookup function. Symbols are looked up with lookup. Generated FFI gen. This is interesting. It's like the okay. So this is similar to what we talked about before, where the actual the source code is stored inside this file, right? These methods, and then there's this CMake here. To actually compile them. Interesting. And what does the pub spec look like? The FFI plugin. Okay, so my understanding for this is that by oh, that's cool. Yeah, this is interesting. Okay, so this is the type of project where you're storing the source code and not using it directly. Now, where does it actually export that it is, or what do you have to do for this plugin to be used? How would someone else, is it exported somewhere here? No, import Dart FFI, async FFI, IO, block Dart execution. hold on here. What is in this example? Dart. Here we go. Import package toxbindings.dart as toxbindings. Okay, so this is how a plugin would be imported. So I guess if this was a publicly available package, then they could import it this way. Okay, and here's run app. Calls a native function through FFI that is shipped as a source in the package. That's cool. This is its own little application just to test it. Okay, that's exactly what I was curious about. Okay, all right, now let's take a look at BTOX. Well, we looked through BTOX quite a bit in the previous videos. Whoa. Okay, the part about BTOX that I think was the most interesting is or at least was the biggest aha moment, was this prepare tox core. And this is where they actually download these binaries and then place them into the directories where they're supposed to go for all the different types of platforms. So cool. Okay, so prepare tox core. When I call prepare tox core, do I need to call all of these? What is this doing? Prepare, this generates FFI bindings. I don't know why they did all this. This is interesting to me, right? It's their, they run FFI gen, and then they change some of the types manually. Like they call sed and just substitute strings in the file. Generated tox core FFI dart run build runner build. Okay, so second question I have here is it doesn't look like they have to do anything particularly special to, export this package as a plugin. Right? I mean, they go into toxbindings.dart. Which makes me wonder, like, is BTOX already a plugin? Could it be? I mean, could BTOX already be a plugin? Let's see. Let's see. API talk score talks.dart. Well, this only has the actual bindings for the like classes, but there's no. What are they calling it? Do they create a talk somewhere in here? I guess I'm also confused why these are all why these are all red. I don't want to get too sucked into making BTalks work here, but I am curious. URI does not exist. It's all right there, though. I wonder if we have to do like Flutter run once for it to like download everything, and then it'll understand. I hear it saying it doesn't even know what a widget is. That must be an issue. So it doesn't look like you really have to do anything, and it looks like I was wrong about what the FFIGen plugin really is, because it seems to be primarily built around this idea of creating dynamically building and creating the source, which is again not the plan that we are going to attempt. We are going to try using what they already have here in their prepare script. Part of me feels like I don't understand why this is here, so I immediately want to remove it, see what breaks, and then learn that lesson the hard way. But I feel like that is not what we're trying to do here. Trying to get something off the ground. Okay, I don't think I've still answered the question of could BTalks itself be a plugin? I feel like it's not, though, right? Like that's the whole idea. It could be, even if you could import the whole thing. This is like a full application. I mean, they're building a full client here. This is far more expansive than just the bindings. They've gone, look at that. There's like pages and background services, profiles, contact lists. That's probably too much for a plugin. I mean, it's clearly, obviously it's not designed to be a plugin. So let's take a step back and see if we can grab only what's necessary. I am wondering if I want to get rid of this and create a new Flutter project that is a little less, well, whatever this is. It's too much of a template. Like, I'm not going to actually have my C code here. And I'm sure if I put the TalkScore C code in here, it wouldn't just work, right? I mean, like we said, it's too complicated. The tool chains there's dependencies and specifics, right? Okay, let's try something similar. Okay, instead of creating template plugin FFI, let's not give it a template and call it talks bindings. And then can we just delete the current talks bindings? That is not what we were looking for in the end. Okay. Boom. Now we can open talks bindings again. Here we go, a little bit lower on the specifics. We just have a main application. Okay, all right. Perfect. Let's start grabbing what we need here. Okay, so I think the prepare scripts make the most sense. What is prepare web though? I didn't understand that one. Still don't. Tools. Pipefail SQLite version, Drift Worker, JavaScript, Sodium libs, update web, toxcore libs, and then they call prepare. Then prepare does pub get, prepare toxcore, and then it does all of the binding generation, the FFI binding generation. And then prepare toxcore is the one that I see. I think I only need this, but I could be wrong, and I think I already kind of acquiesced that I should probably allow this business after FFI gen. That makes the clearest sense. I guess I'm still trying to figure out this prepare web. What is the point of that? Yeah, let's dip on prepare web. I don't know if it's necessary. Let's stick with prepare. Let's stick with prepare and prepare toxcore. Ay. Oh gosh. Okay. And then are any of these using that include folder? Tools include? They are. Okay. So we want the include folder tool. Okay, let's copy tools and let's drop that into our project. Okay, so this is the piece that should deliver us. What about the pub specs? What all is necessary to change here? Okay, ToxChat client, publish to none. Where's all the FFI gen business? I need the assets. Here we go. FFI gen generated toxcore FFI inside lib. They have lib FFI toxcore FFI dart. Yeah, all of this. You know, this is interesting too. I only had one entry point for tox H. They do it for options, events, encrypt save. I wonder why that's necessary. Prevent system headers from being included. Oh wow, that's an interesting. Yeah, okay, so we're obviously going to need this too. And then they must have specified FFI gen somewhere up in here, and FFI gen right here. I can add that myself. Oh, the bar is so low now. Oh god, the bar is low. Okay, all right. Okay. Okay. Oof. Flutter, pub, add FFI, and now FFI gen. Excellent. And now pub spec YAML. There's where I added it. Now we can drop this in at the bottom the way they did. Looks fine. Okay, now my question is, can I just run, let's see if we Flutter run. What happened? Or no, we have to prepare. Let's see. Tools, prepare. Failure, writing to destination. tar, Linux vendored. No such file or directory. Linux, there is no vendor directory. Let's see, did they have a vendor directory? Wow. With nothing in it but .get ignore. All right, let's add it. Vendored. Damn. Wow. Oh, could not find package build runner, which was the actual thing I was going to build at the end. This must be their full build. Let's see. Do they have a build runner file? Ah, build runner. What is this? Oh, these are packages. Oh, interesting. Build runner is a package that they import. Build runner build. I wonder what build runner does. We could probably look that up. Flutter build runner. Oh, developer generating boilerplate code based on annotations or configuration files, reducing manual errors and improving efficiency. I wonder where they got that to work. Runs a single build and generates all files. Yeah, okay, that's what they're doing. But I don't have build runner. Should I add it? I think that was the very last command in their deal that failed. Well, let's see what it does. There you go. And then Flutter run build runner build. Target file build runner not found. Isn't this what they did? Let's see. Tools. Oh, it's Dart run. Dart. Is that what's the difference there? Oh, building package executable. I'm impressed. Okay. Nothing to build. Okay, so I didn't really need that. I was just just to learn I didn't need it. But now I know. Okay. All right. Now let's see what actually got generated here. What we end up with. So I assume now Linux vendored toxcore SO. That's okay. That part I was able to do on my own. Now Android. Yeah, man, you know what's so interesting about this is I knew I was able to figure out that I needed to get it into the JNI libs, but I couldn't, for the life of me, figured out how to get, I was just putting my executable, my binary directly into JNI libs instead of inside an architecture first, or an architecture tag, and then the executable. Man, so close, because it would tell me it didn't know how to read the JNI libs thing, and I was like, I'm in. I'm out of my element. Wow. Yeah, these guys figured it out. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we now have all the code. Let's see, FFI gen was run. Did it generate a ton of bindings? I assume it did. Let's go into lib. FFI. Let's see, toxcore.js dart package WASM FFI FFI dart. Generated by package FFI gen. This WASM FFI. Auto-generated file. Auto-generated file, do not edit. Dart FFI. Okay, this is tox FFI. This is the generated file that I was expecting. Why is this? Okay, let's see if we can. Okay, so here's toxcore FFI Dart. This one I knew would get created. That's clear to me. Right, toxcore FFI Dart. These are all the bindings. Here is look at that prepared script. I think did they copy this JS bit at any point? Look at that right there. Toxcore JS Dart. Oh, that's what this is. They're not changing the types of the. Oh my gosh! I bet you they're not. They're not actually changing the types of the auto-generated file. They're creating a copy of that with different types that are probably web. I wonder if there's a subset of types that are utilizable for web applications, and these types that the FFI gen uses, like bool and char and size and unsigned int, need to be translated into these, other FFI parameters that are acceptable for like the JS version. Okay, alrighty, and let's see how they choose between the two of them. Maybe I'm wrong, but let's see if we can confirm that in btox's setup. Let's see. Inside the library, in the API, when they read it, no, sorry, inside FFI library, here we go. If Dart library FFI, then we return the FFI Dart. If it's JS interop, we return JS Dart. And where is JS interop coming from? Inside any platform. Wait, Dart library JS interop. Web.dart. Unsupported.dart. Web. Wait, hold on. I think I'm a bit. Can we go into this any platform business? Platform, any platform, JS interop platform.dart. There we go. Is web true? Everything else is false. Ugh. How cool. Okay, so they are supporting. Okay, so that is beyond the scope of what my POC was. They're supporting, this is so cool. They're supporting some sort of web client for talks using these JavaScript. Oh, sorry, that was dumb. Um, my guess is that the Flutter applications that you build obviously are translated into JavaScript applications at some point, and so it matters that the bindings use JS appropriate types. All right, that mystery is solved. I think we are in good shape here. I am not going to add web support to whatever I am doing because that is crazy. I can't believe they did that. Okay, which makes me feel comfortable about getting rid of this. We can just run FFIGen the old-fashioned way. And then we don't need this build runner. Actually, sorry, let me undo that. I don't want to get rid of their code. It is too valuable. I am just going to comment out the things that I think I've determined so far I don't need. So tools, prepared, talk score. I like leaving Windows on in case that support ever shows up. Web is outside the scope, baby. Web was not part of it, and that is beyond the scope of even the plugin. That let's not bite off more than we can chew for a second time. Okay, wow, they have ceiling and GCC support. That is interesting. Interesting. So you still need the FFI. Obviously, right, we talked about this before, right? You need some sort of compiler or something like that in order for the FFI bindings to work. Okay. This is excellent. I'm going to leave that as it is. And I'm going to remove this JS start business. That is above my pay grade, at least for this POC. All right, here we go. So these are the bindings that have now been generated. Tox FFI. This is beautiful. Now, the next question is, am I exporting this as a library, or is there more? Is this the plugin, or am I going to try and create some sort of intermediary, right? In all of the documentation, right, that we looked at, the recommendation was you should have some sort of class abstracting out the, direct connection to the bindings you created. There should be some sort of, I don't know, class, right, that abstracts away all of these library things. And I think what we're seeing, in BTalks is that they took that approach, right? There is a, let's go back to that real quick. They have this API, right? No, these are just the classes that they've defined. Look at this, Tox library. Tox library is this class that actually does the Tox FFI instantiation, right? Man, I have no idea what RiverPod is, what these references are, but in any case, right? They have a Tox library that is a go-between to the Tox FFI, and then even then, this library is, oh wow, that's cool. All right. Something tells me that after I build the auto-generated code, all of these red words are going to start disappearing, or at least some of them. Might make it easier to look at this code. Failed to precompile build script. Whoa. You know what it is? This is that build runner. I think that's what it is. Yeah, look at that. Build runner, build, generating build script completed. And then there's this giant warning. And then there's a severe, likely failed to precompile build script. Okay. Did things start to... I'm still missing this unsupported .g.dart. Oh, it says part. What does that mean? What is the part word in Flutter? Let's see. Flutter part keyword. A reserved word. Right, that's the terminology. Part of, import, export. Uh, whoa. That's interesting. Okay, so toxlibrary.js.g.dart. Yeah, look, they're all part of it, so they can all see each other's private. Man, that's private members. That's interesting. Database.g.dart. It's like they're all wrapped up parts. Whoa! One file can be part of two different Dart. I don't understand the difference between part and part up, but I think I'm already understanding that. Part is an interesting tool. Okay, so I do think some of the red went away, but there's still obviously quite a bit here. So maybe that is tied to this build script. Okay, this was an aside. Interesting, but aside. Okay. Um, so our question is, okay, we have these bindings. Um, they work for everything except Windows. And now we have a main Dart folder um, that can interact with these bindings. The question is, do we want to wrap this into like a class to control this interaction? I think that makes sense. I don't think I'm going to go as far as they did. I don't think I'm going to define those constants. I don't think it's going to be like a complete like a complete abstraction that hides all the underlying information, right? Like defining the tox instances and the profiles or what they were doing. I don't think that's going to go into my plugin. Um, let's create a new file. Let's call this tox bindings, or let's call this tox core. The whole toxcore.dart. Um, and then, okay. Let's see if we can get just they had one piece that I thought was very cool. This FFI Dart right here, right? Talks library, future talks library async, returns a talks library, and an allocator. And what is a talks library? Isn't that what this defines? No, that's this. No, that's this. And then scope to FFI provider. Talks core extends API talks. Yeah, look at this. See how they wrapped this? This is like a wrapper for the actual call. Where's talks new? Look at that. Ah, man. See, I wrote my own version of this. This is interesting. Okay, so they pass in options, which is a talks option, their own talks options class. No, which is the auto-generated talks options class, and then a pointer to UN32 for the error. Events init. Okay, I can't go this deep. It's outside the scope of the POC. It's outside the scope of this plugin, but it would be so cool, right, to kind of define your own abstraction. I feel like I'm clearly not the right person to do it, because again, I'm new to both of these frameworks. But it is interesting. I'm curious about it. Okay, so let me say that this is an interesting moment where my application actually has some slight value because I figured this out. Look at that, my contribution. Oh God. Okay. So close. I think. Who knows if I was actually that close? Okay, lib, main, dart, talks bindings. Call it all the same, don't I? Okay, this is from class native library. Is that what I put in my pubspec.yaml? No, I called it talks bindings. Okay, thank you. Native library is talks library, and then I was getting the library path, right? And look at that. I needed an architecture. Okay. Maybe I needed other things too, but I definitely needed the architecture. Okay, now let's go back into the new plugin app. Let's go into talkscore.dart. I definitely need to import some other things. What else was I importing here? This. Do I need a main? I don't know if that's necessary if I'm just importing, or if there's just a plugin. Okay, talks bindings Dart. That's not where that's coming from. It is FFI generated. There you go. Talks core FFI Dart. And then native library. I think it's just talks FFI. Sorry, talks FFI. Open. And then this is where, how did they, this is where I want to see, they have their FFI Dart business. Look at that, any platform, dynamic library dot open. If any platform dot instance Android, then they do open libtalkscore SO. Otherwise, they do process. Why is it different? Who knows? Who knows? Well, obviously they know, but I do not. I don't understand the purpose of the allocator too. I didn't need an allocator, or maybe I did, and I don't understand why I don't. Let's go here. And then we don't have any platform. I don't want to incorporate that, but I think this built-in platform, right, can just say platform dot is Android. There we go. And this returns, it's not a type. That's interesting. What? Oh, is this like an enum? How did they use it in that? Yeah. The C, it was the C interrupt Flutter page. They have that little thing. Here they go. If platform dot is Mac OS. No. So this is definitely returning a Boolean. Dart.io platform. Show import Dart.io show platform. No, that's what I did. I don't know why that seemed interesting. Okay, hold on. Can I also... Are there ternary operators here? Is that a thing? I wasn't aware of that. Let's do tox FFI. Oh my gosh, and it all just... That's crazy. Cool. So cool. All right. And now from tox FFI, is everything available? Tox. Yeah, look at that. Oh, is it not there? Wait, what did I have to do in mine to call tox new? This is in theirs. Tox library, tox new. Yeah. Tox library dot tox new. Is that not an option here? I'm gonna call it something else. Sorry, it's getting me. Let's say tox core. Or let's call this bindings. Something. I don't know. Oh, it was a pointer tox. Okay, so no. Everything is available here. Yes. Wow. Yeah. So it is all possible. It is all possible. You know, it would be very cool to write some generic bindings here, like what the plugin looks like. Not what the plugin looks like. Sorry. It would be cool to write some stuff in here, like for basic functionality, like you want to. Well, I guess this still isn't really exported, is it? I have to write something, right? Let's see, if someone imported this file. Now let's see, if someone imported this file, oh, but maybe they could just look at bindings. Maybe that would just be available. I don't know if that's private or, I don't know what the scope of bindings is. Yeah, tough to know. Tough to know. Okay, so how would I do it, right? There'd be a tox instance, there'd be tox options, and you would have generic functionality like calling the underlying APIs. Uh, it's like creating a whole second set of bindings that call the first set of bindings. It's like creating a set of bindings that call the auto-generated bindings. And there's a ton of these, right? I mean, how many methods is that? Um, and some of these are going to be complicated. You're going to be taking a bunch of stuff. Oh, man. Would be cool, though. Would be cool. My question is, I mean, honestly, if all I'm going to be releasing are the auto-generated bindings, I mean, what's the value to that, you know? I mean, there's still value to it. Obviously, this, again, would help anybody who is in my situation, like when I started this POC. It would be so helpful to just import a package and have the bindings and not have to wonder how to build them. See, I say not have to wonder how to build them. Well, I guess, yeah, the binaries are now part of the application. I guess whenever they updated the plugin, they would get updated tox score too. So there's a manual element to that whenever the updates happen. It totally makes sense though, right? To just have a generic implementation. Man. Okay, let's do this. What does the main file look like? Design a class, my app. Useless. Um, okay, let's say class tox score. Tox score, and then can I define this immediately? Cool. So this runs it. Can I put it inside something like a? What's it? Do they have constructors? They must, right? Non-nullable instance field bindings must be initialized. Wait. Perfect. Okay, so now in the constructor itself, you get the platform initialized, and then we can just have methods in here, right? Wrapper methods, essentially. So and see, this is where all of a sudden it makes sense to have the API wrappers, because then, you know, you can import that too and kind of play around with it. But maybe that class should also be declared here. Ay. Let's see. So let's define new talks returns talks. You pass in talks options. Honestly, this really does help with the null safety of it all. Like, and with the weird spacing, it probably is valuable. You can return talks bindings. Oh, it returns a pointer to a new talks. But what if I just want the talks? Okay, let's see. What if I do bindings dot talks new options, and then error. I want to just pass in a null pointer. Let's see. Options, and then talks new, talks error new, error, it's null pointer. Wait, what did I do when I ran into this? Oh, it's got to be a pointer to that. Okay. Do I need unsigned int for this? Wait, what did I do again? Talks error new is an unsigned int. There you go. We pass error in. Options, because it should be a pointer to talks options. Options dot address of. No. Oh, you know what? Pointer dot from address. Oh God, no. That's not. That is not what I thought it was. Is there no way to? I have an options. How do I get the? How do I get the pointer from this? Is there? Let's see. Dart FFI get pointer of object. Mallet. Oh, address of sub. Oh, but this is a pointer to the function. String. Oh, you know what? Maybe that method is overloaded. So I thought it was only to a. Okay. Wait, were they saying address of or from address? Oh, because it's native. Oh, I got you. Native dot address of, and then I pass in my pointer. What? No, I pass in my options, right? Darn it. Passing in a static function or field annotated with native. It's supposed to be annotated with native. I'm just trying to get a pointer to tox options. Ay, ay, ay. Okay. .ref. No. Address of a method. Okay, so my string is a pointer to a car, and they're able to get a pointer to a car by calling native address of. But they had to mark that this was native, and they had to say, this is the annotation they're talking about. I don't know enough about the annotations to know if this makes any sense. No. Okay, this is probably not the direction we want to go in. Ah! Okay. Options. What are my other options here? It's just address of. Can Copilot figure this out? This seems like a generic use case, right? Other people would have written code like this. What is build workspace? No, I don't want that. Do options pointer. There we go. Let's do it. All right. Let's see if they can answer. Need to allocate memory for a tox options string. No, they already have memory because they're passing it to us. Darn it. Okay, let's say a pointer to tox options is what we really get past. Let's not make this more complicated than it needs to be. They pass in the pointer. I pass in the options. There we go. Tox pointer out, and then ooh, that's cool. Because I think 0 is correct that it passes. Okay. And then return. So I should return a pointer to a tox. Makes the most sense. right. Unfortunately, my new my new method signature looks eerily similar to the existing one. I guess I have abstracted away bindings into this tox core business. Um, really just another wrapper for a wrapper. Everything's a layer of abstraction here. Okay, I guess the error handling is cool to a certain extent. Um, uh, let's see. Let's not get defeated here. This is interesting, right? We're close. Failed to create a tox instance, error code, error.value. This is all right. What was my original list? Create the bindings, get the version, set the name or status, send the friend request. Okay, how about we add set name and get name? That's pretty cool, right? Let's see. Can we have new tox? Let's have set name and get name. Okay, set name returns nothing. It's a setter. And then get name should return a string. All right. Options, new tox. No. It's tox set self set name. Tox self set name. There we go. And then it'll be tox self get name here. There's more to it. Okay, self name takes a pointer to a tox, which we will have tox. It takes a name. Let's say we take a string and then int length pointer unsigned int error. Length error. Okay, so let's just take a tox and a string. That should be enough for us. Name. And then we will, error can stay the same. Tox goes in here. And then we're going to need to do the conversions that we already figured out in the last one. Yes. Okay. Now this feels like integration. Like I'm actually figuring things out. Okay, so I wrote this get name method and this set name method. Oh my gosh, it's already fully written. Get out of town. Let me put this in. Okay, and then let's call it set name and get name, just like that. And then instead of tox library, it's bindings. And then name, and we need the tox pointer. Tox. Got to be passed in here. Self set name tox gets passed through. here to Dart string. Let's add some helper methods here. Maybe a little convert. Oh, look at that, string to pointer. Is this what I already have? Unit event cast uint 18. That is awesome. Name, there we go. And now, can I get the other one? Free string pointer. Ooh. How does one free up that name pointer? Okay, we're not dealing with memory right now. Hold on. Let's not get it carried away. I just want convert pointer to string. There we go. No. String to pointer with length. Don't know. Convert pointer to string, and it will take. It's returning this. And it takes a, what is converted name? Pointer. Instead of str, we'll do ptr. ptr cast dirt string. Boom. Convert pointer to string. Or converted name. Let's call this name. Little cleaner. Look at that. Okay. All right. Integrated my previous understanding of this. We have a new talks, a set name, a get name. Let's try it out. I'm sorry, but we got to see. I mean, does it work? Does it work? Let's see. If we import talkscore, import talkscore.dart. There it is. And now let's go back into our little setup here. And let's call let's say talkscore equals talkscore. And now let's see if I do scaffolding, you have pushed the button this many times. Let's just add something in here, like talkscore dot new talks methods can't be invoked in constant expressions. Oh, because it says this is constant. No, it is not. Dot new talks returns a pointer, and so we can do. Let's do something crazy. Talkscore dot get name. Okay, actually, let's create talks up here. Pointer talks. Talks. And then I think I need to import. Oh, I still need to import the generated code. Yeah, otherwise I'm not going to know what a talks is. Can I just put var? What's that look like? Can't be accessed in the initializer. Yeah. Ay, ay, ay. Yeah, it would make more sense if I returned a tox instance, right? And then it would make more sense if I returned a tox instance. And then right on that tox instance, you could call set name or get name. And then under the hood, I did all of this. Yeah. Like if tox core, that would be actual. Uh, all right. 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 Can we label things static in this language? Yes. And can I set them here? And then right when we create tox core, this is going to call tox under the hood. And we need to and then maybe, honestly, can we rename this? Let's call it tox instance. Actually, we can call it tox core. Sorry. I don't know why I needed to change that. It's just the class name here. We can change this to tox instance. Whoa. And we say, there we go. We're going to have to make our own options. There's just no other way around it. You know what? We're not making our options today. You get the default. Options will be in the next release. Oh gosh. We'll put this in. There it is. You create a tox instance. What happens if I try and call this tox? Does it work? And then what is this? I have to do FFI dot? No. How is it known? Where am I getting this from? FFI. Because it knows I'm talking about this class now. Ah, why is everything just named tox? Okay. Tox start. How about that? Tox start. It's essentially a tox instance that's wrapped in Dart. Tox start. Okay. It's wonderful. We get a pointer to a tox. So it happens when you say new. Hitting insert. Now you say set name, and we set name. You don't even have to pass in tox. Calling set name on tox itself, on tox Dart itself, and we just pass in the tox we already have. Get name returns it. Okay, that's pretty cool. I did not mention what these returned. This returns a pointer to a UN8. And this returns a string. Save this. Now in main Dart, we create a tox instance. Tox. Tox Dart. Oh, right. I called it Tox Dart. That's awkward. I don't know that I needed this. I forgot what I just changed the name to. Okay, I can already see this. We open a Tox Dart. Look at this. You guys ready for this action? Set name. And then can we do tox get name? Wait, why didn't that work? Oh. And then alrighty. Alrighty. I don't know what tox.getName is going to return if I haven't set the name yet. Oh, but it'll set the name at the beginning of the build function. Ridiculous. All right, folks, let's see. Wait, why is toxcore dart red? Oh, air value. Oh, because I changed it to tox air new. Ah, failed. Bindings. Undefined name bindings. Toxify bindings. Static. It's at line 45. Oh. How did you get down there? Okay. Here we go. Finally not a red file. Probably should have been a red flag that the file name was in red. But there you go. Oh, failed to look up symbol tox new. Undefined symbol. Lib Flutter Linux GTK.so. Okay, hold on. Nicholas Projects, Tox Bindings, Build Linux x64 Debug Bundle Lib. Lib Flutter Linux GTK.so. It can't find Tox new. That's strange, right? It could not find Tox new in bindings, and bindings had toxFFI. So it must have been looking for tox new in libtoxcore. No, in dynamic library.process. See, what does that mean? How does this work again? Oh gosh. Any symbol in a library currently loaded with global visibility, including the executable itself, may be resolved through this library. Wow. Okay, so this is like a global library. Maybe it would be better to just open. Um, let's see. What is it supposed to be for Linux? Let's try this out a couple times and see if we can nail this. If they wanted a file for Linux, what would it be? I get that process is supposed to work. I'm just curious if we can. Do I need Linux vendor libtoxcore.so? Why did we lose it? Oh, the build worked this time. That's strange. But I guess the build worked last time. But um, let's see, Linux vendored. This is what I think will work. Cannot open shared object file, no such file or directory. Oh, I put Linus. Linux. Can I do a hot reload? Is that enough? No, lost connection to the device. Okay. It's too much. It's too much. Does that mean it's working? Hold on. Let's play this a little easier here. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of the text. And let's get rid of the talk start. Is this working? Yes. Okay. All right. This is working. Now, what if okay. What fails? Because it's static, so I would think that we've already processed it. So libtoxcore.so must have worked to some degree. Okay. Let's let talk start out, and let's do a reload. Is this what breaks it? No. No, it's not. Let's do a hot restart. Okay, now we lose connection to the device. Okay, so the reload wasn't enough to really test that. Man. Okay, so talk.dart is our issue. Let's go into talkscore.dart and figure out why this is. Is it just this? Or is it some of this business? Let's not call anything else. Just see. Maybe our issue is the bindings, or maybe it's the. I don't think it's the bindings. No, okay, so this is okay. Gonna go one line at a time here. Obviously, we know what line, what line it's gonna be. It's gonna be this one. Darn it. Bindings dot talks new. Why does that fail? It's not that. Successful. Is it this error handling? No way. Oh my gosh, it's the error handling, isn't it? Hold on. Hold on. Let's remove some of these comments I set. Get out of town. It works. Okay. All right, folks. There you go. There you have it. Now, hold on here. Did this one work? No, right? That was not our issue. Yeah. Okay. And then I have one last question now. Without Linux and vendored, does it still find it? Oh, it does. That's so cool. Okay. There it is. Okay. We are in pretty good shape right now. All right, obviously, got to figure out this error condition, got to add comments to all of this, but this is cool. This is worth it. This is worth creating the Tox plugin. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not obviously going to do the entire Tox header. That's way beyond the scope of this POC, but looking at the original scope of the POC, using this plugin, using everything we've learned from BTox, Windows we are not going to get. We are down to just a friend request. Because we are literally setting the name and the status. I mean, all of a sudden it's achievable again, right? It's like full circle. There's a possibility that this could be something that could work. Man, how cool is that? All right. Oh, one other thing I almost forgot, and I don't want to forget in this video. The GPL3 license. Got to copy it over in its entirety. That is part of the deal, baby. Boom. And even though I'm going to delete this project later, I'll put it in there too. Ah, how wonderful. Look at that. Ah, this is so cool. Okay. Of course, we're just testing things out here in main. That is not going to be shipped in the final plugin, but we are maybe a couple methods away from delivering this thing. Excellent. All right. Thank you, everyone.